And welcome. We're doing this insert focusing on the South African political party called the Democratic Alliance. They are the official opposition party, or that is how they are informally known as, but they are also the second largest political party in the country. Now, the Democratic Alliance historically came from having been the progressive, or not too long ago, having been called the Progressive Federal Party. Their politics historically has always been that they have been very comfortable to be a part of the apartheid system. That is really where they flourished. They gave apartheid its legitimacy. Now, that might sound like an extreme negative reality. Perhaps not so. I think that afforded them the benefit to get into existence and to get support amongst white South Africans. Now, much as they have been a part of the problem as far as apartheid has been concerned, they have successfully transformed themselves to some extent away from what they have been in the past. They are now beginning to, and their presence more speaks of an organization which is willing to some extent to allow black South Africans into the party, to participate in the party. The leadership is pretty much still in the hands of white South Africans and white liberals, English-speaking liberals for that matter. They have opened their doors very widely to former apartheid supporters. The National Party supporters have found a welcome home with them. So too has people amongst colored and black communities who opposed the African National Congress have found a home there. But since late, they have truly been a party which welcomed and became a home to people who have been an operational part of the African National Congress. So it appears as if the transformation which they subjected themselves to have worked. It has worked for them. They have become relevant to people who are opposed to the finer mechanics of the African National Congress, and they have become a home to such individuals, a political home, I should say. Let me deal with two shortcomings, and I will deal with two positives about them in present terms. In terms of the shortcomings, they don't really offer anything other than resisting the governing party. That is a shortcoming, because what that means is it makes their policies and their operations and their programs subject to what the ruling party is doing. And they appear to be not as serious as a political organization or a political party. So that is the first negative I have against them. The second negative that I have against them is the fact that they are very reactive. They seem to respond to what the ANC or the government is doing or not doing, what the government is doing wrong or what the government is not doing. That is not something that you can sustain a healthy political organization on. They lack, consequently, an ideology, and a strong ideology. They don't really, I said I was going to mention two, I'm now mentioning four things. They said that they are a liberal organization. They don't really openly promote the ideology of liberalism, but be that as it may. Those are the shortcomings I have about them. The positives about them, I mentioned one. They have effectively become a home to people who find the African National Congress to have come up short, or any other political party to not satisfy their political ideals, firstly. Secondly, they are truly the number one multi-racial political party in all of the history of the country. They are not being credited for this enough, and they should be. They have truly transformed themselves into a home for people from diverse racial and cultural backgrounds. They are indeed the leading political party there, and by far the only second or one who comes very relatively not close to them, who comes second in terms of racial representing racial the racial demographic. The ruling party comes second, but very, very far. They cannot compete with the Democratic Alliance in terms of representing the demographic of the nation. So that is the second positive thing that I have to say about that. The third positive thing is that they appear to be slightly more relevant than any other political party when it comes to youth. They appear to be drawing a vast majority of young people into their organization, and operationally so of late. And the fourth positive thing that I can say about them is probably 75 to 85% of people who are actively engaged in the sporting fraternity in the country are either card-carrying members or sympathizers of the Democratic Alliance. So they are very well spread. They're an organization with a very optimistic or a positive future. It's now a matter of mining that future. But I have to say this. I have to say that in the Western Cape, by far, they are the leading party. They have done very well in terms of local government politics. They have done very well in terms of provincial politics, and they truly have captured the imagination of people in the Western Cape. Now here is a shortcoming flowing out of that. They have not been able to do that elsewhere in the country. That might be a bit of a negative that they would have to carry through. Now then, what do I offer, what do I have to say in terms of the future? What would I have done if I was the Democratic Alliance with all of the resources that they have? How would I have used this to the benefit of members and supporters of the Democratic Alliance and people who participate in there? Number one, I would very aggressively get into business with a very different proposition. Business in South Africa are generally opposed to the ANC. They are generally opposed to the government. They don't agree with their policies and their personalities and their behavior and so on and so forth. If I was the Democratic Alliance, number one, I would have gone into business and I would have offered them a very different proposition, and the kinds of proposition which would take business abroad and promote South African businesses elsewhere. That is the first thing that I would have done. I would have had a very active industrial and international industrial program focusing on South African businesses to have them be the lead organizations and entities in those kinds of businesses. So that would have been my very first offering. My second offering is I would have looked at South Africa from a futuristic point of view. I would not have gotten involved in local historic politics because I have shortcomings. The Democratic Alliance have fundamental shortcomings when it comes to the history of the country. I would have pegged my policies and my operations on a futuristic view. What do I offer into the future? Develop a picture of the country into the future and sell that. Move away from the negative things about what my opposition does, because it appears as if the Democratic Alliance can only be strong when their opposition is weak. That is not a sustainable proposition. That is not something that people want from a leader. The third aspect is I would have created a fully fledged cabinet, a national cabinet, and I would have promoted them internationally as well as locally. I would have promoted them and given them clear-cut Democratic Alliance programs for those various disciplines, not necessarily copying the government, but programs which would respond to the national need. And then thirdly, I would have had a program focusing on the youth on two levels. One, entertainment, and two, sport. And I would have developed these programs from an international perspective. What am I talking about? There are a very large concentration of South Africans living abroad in the diaspora. I would have gone after them aggressively, but I would have engaged them with programs which will emanate or find its footing here in the country. And in that way, bring in that international flavor, as it will, or contribution. And then the last aspect which I would have focused on if I was the Democratic Alliance, I would have focusing on promoting the ideology of liberalism, but a new African kind of liberalism. I think we have enough academics in the country, in the world, who would be particularly interested in this. I can think of the Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Kellogg's Foundation, USAID. These kinds of organizations have a specific history and they have experience when it comes to liberalism and the advancement and the development of liberalism. I would have partnered with any one or two of those and said, and promote the study of liberalism from an African perspective and rolling that out into the populace as an alternative to the nationalist programs of the African National Congress government. That would have been my mainstay as a party. That is what I would have done to capture the imagination of people into the future, South African voters into the future, as well as renewing this party as a true alternative to the present government. But that is just my thoughts. Yours would be very welcome on our website, our webpage. Please let us know what you think. And it doesn't all have to be all hunky-dory and wonderfully new, positive thoughts. Tell me what you think. I'm interested in that. But those are our thoughts. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to having you soon again. Have a good day. Goodbye.